if I'm allowed.
I saw Impact last week.
We're trying, brother.
Especially with WrestleMania.
I lost it. We just sat. We just sat there.
I was there alone.
So there really was a crowd dead, or was it just me? It was crazy during that match. Take. What about the rest of it? Nothing? What about when the Rock came on? It was on TV, or maybe it was just sitting? Yeah, it's just like fucking cold.
Okay, so that video clip you just saw was from May of 2011. It was after WrestleMania 27 when I met Hulk Hogan. Now, the whole deal with this is it was very, very short notice. I remember there was an ROH show, which was about two weeks prior. And no, not 2 weeks prior, maybe like 3 weeks prior. And I went to the ROH show, and during that show, someone said, "Are you going to go to the Hogan signing?" I'm pretty sure it was Legend Killer's friend. He just asked, "Oh, Hogan's doing a signing in Brantford, which is about an hour away from here." And I asked him, I'm like, "No, I don't know anything about it." He's like, "Oh yeah, it's called CWI, Championship Wrestling International, which is pretty much." The roster is filled of legends, pretty much legends of wrestling is what it is. And, typical indie legends, Tatanka, Brutus Beefcake, Steve Corino, the New Age Outlaws, X-Pac. These kind of guys are the ones who really, Scott Steiner, another one, who pretty much do the whole loop where they just go to 3 cities within a matter of 2 weeks or whatever. And Hogan was coming here, and I had no idea. Usually I'm pretty, filled in on what's going on. So I freaked out. I'm like, this is literally a once-in-a-lifetime thing for me, because me being the fan that I am, meeting Hogan has always been on the top of that list, no matter whether I like him or not. So I got the tickets, thankfully. And there was a little bit of a problem because he was only signing for about 150 people, and that was a VIP ticket. And by that time, VIP was already sold out, and VIPs had the luxury, I guess, to go early. I think it was like an hour early before everyone else. It wasn't 150 people. It was like he was signing from this time to this time. If you get it, you get it. If you don't, you don't. And VIPs had that first ticket in. So I ordered just general admission, hoping to get there early. And I got there early, and I was first in line for the general admission, and because I bought the tickets a little bit late, I had them at will call. So I went there, and I went to will call, and I said, "This is my name, this is the receipt, and just give me my tickets." And they looked for it, and they're like, "We can't find your we can't find your tickets." And I'm like, "This is great." I'm like, this couldn't have gone any better. So they're looking, they're asking me for like a confirmation number, and thankfully I printed out the whole receipt from PayPal, the email confirmation they sent, and I just gave it to them, so it's not like I was bullshitting anything. And they said, "We don't have your tickets here." But so I'm like, "What are you gonna do?" Like, I don't know, like, this isn't my thing. So they said, "How about we give you a VIP just for making, for our mistake. We have a couple VIPs left, and we'll give you one." Hey, sure, no problem. So I took it very, very happily. And I was walking, and then one of the people who watches my videos, he saw me there, and he called me over, and he was about like halfway through the line. And by this time, the line was like, think of like WrestleMania Access, like for like Shawn Michaels. Like, that's how bad it was. And thankfully, he was like halfway through, maybe even less. he called me over, and I kind of just told him, like, this is what happened. Like, do you mind if I stand here? Yeah, no worries. And so I started talking with him, thankfully. Very, very thankful for that. And we just talked. We went in. So Hogan was there, and he was signing on a stage where you had X-Pac, Scott Steiner, Kevin Nash, the Bushwhackers. They were all kind of on the floor of the gym, and then you had Tatanka, Virgil, Million Dollar Man. They were in the lobby of the gym, like in the front doors. Just as soon as you enter, they're like right there. So I went in, met Hogan. We're like, they kind of had it in the line where you start from the floor, you walk up the stage, and then Hogan's signing like right on top of the stage. And I went up, and to be quite honest, I wasn't too nervous before standing in line. It was with me. I'm gonna be totally honest with you guys. The most nervous I've been to meet a wrestler was with Trish Stratus, and that was the second wrestler I met in February 2009. And Hogan I was just there, and I was like, okay. So I went up, and Jade went up first, and she put the belt down, and the guy's like, "Are you with her?" I'm like, "Yes." So then he sent me there, and I put the belt down, and then Hogan's looking at me. You can see from the video, he's like, "How's it going, brother?" And I'm like, "Hey, not bad." I shook his hand, whatever. And I remember that Impact Wrestling. I think Hogan made an announcement that we're gonna do what everyone else isn't doing, and that's wrestling, something along those lines. And they had an awesome match. I think it was an X Division match with the Motor City Machine Guns, but I could be wrong. But I told him like that Impact was great. I'm like, it's good that you guys are bringing back wrestling when other companies are kind of going away from it. And he said, "Oh, we're trying." And I told him I went to Mania 27, and it was a good show, but I was really expecting more considering it was a WrestleMania. He's like, "Oh, I know, I saw the highlights. It didn't look very good." And he's like, "How was the crowd?" And I told him it was nothing like the Georgia Dome when Goldberg were facing each other. He's like, "Oh, I wouldn't imagine it being that bad." And then I said, for The Rock, they were great, but for everything else, for The Rock and Undertaker and Triple H, they were good, but for everything else, it was kind of like whatever. And then he's like, "It was only those two matches they were going crazy for?" I said, "Yeah." And then he's like, "Wow." And then I'm like, then here I am thinking I'm so cool. I just watched the History of WrestleMania DVD where they're talking about the dome size. What is it called? The shape of the dome, where it's like the sound barrier or something like that. So me being me, I'm like, "Hey, did you know this?" He's like, "Oh yeah, I know about the sound barrier, brother." And I'm like, "Okay." And so then so I asked him about that. I'm like, "How did you pull it off like Goldberg and Hogan in the Georgia Dome?" And then I know he was bullshitting. He's like, "I told Bischoff on Thursday that we need to do this and he needs to win." I'm like, and at this point, this is when I start getting nervous, because if you watch, if you listen closely, you can hear him say Bischoff. I don't know exactly where in the video it is, but I'm standing there with my hands like on my hip, and I'm staring at him, and I felt a sweat drip down my face. And at this point, I'm like, this is when reality kicked in, and I'm like, holy shit, Hulk Hogan is in front of me, bullshitting about losing to Goldberg on Nitro in the Georgia Dome, where Stevie Breach was part of. And that's when it really hit me that I'm like, damn, like, this is huge. And he signed the belts, whatever, and then I shook his hand. I'm like, "Thank you so much." He shook Jade's hand. She didn't really say anything. She was more in awe that she's standing in front of the Hulkster. And that was it. It was definitely a lifetime, like a memory that will last a lifetime with me, considering that, I don't know, it was Hulk Hogan, and it was just larger than life man. Like, everyone knows who Hulk Hogan is. I think he's one of the top 10 most recognizable faces in the world, and now I'm standing in front of him, and he's talking to me about Bischoff and WrestleMania and Georgia Domes, and it was amazing. It was really, really fun. And yeah, that's all. And I'll see you guys tomorrow.